Welcome to the Geobreeze Travel Podcast, a show for anyone wanting to level up their travel hacking lifestyle. I'm your host, Julia Menez. I'm a travel hacker, coach, speaker, Filipino-American ENTJ who loves solid travel gear and using shortcuts on spreadsheets. On this show, I'm on a mission to bring you travel hackers from all walks of life to help you level up your travel hacking game. We dive into credit cards, miles, points, strategy, mindset, and the secrets behind how to travel the world for next to no cost. So, let's get hacking. Hello everyone, today's featured travel hacker is Senitra Horbrook. Senitra is a frequent solo traveler who began using miles and points in 2012 to travel on a shoestring budget. She is a contributing writer at The Points Guy and has been a featured speaker at conferences such as Frequent Traveler University. She enjoys sharing her tips for solo travel, along with her strategies to earn many frequent flyer miles and hotel points through credit card rewards in order to inspire others. In today's episode, we discuss how Senitra found her travel hacking community as a solo traveler and applied all that she learned to take an incredible travel hacked safari trip in South Africa. Enjoy! Hi, Senitra. Welcome to the Geobreeze Travel Podcast. We are so excited to have you here today.
Hi, Julia. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. So you have so many different fascinating things about your travel hacking journey. Before we dive into details, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into travel hacking, and how long you've been in the travel hacking game?
Sure. I got into the travel hacking game in 2012, so about 8 years ago now. I started reading some of the travel blogs. I was already pretty interested in personal finance, and I saw the personal finance blogs I was reading talk about travel hacking. So then I dove kind of into that from there. And I got my first travel credit card, the City Advantage American Airlines card. Since I live in the Dallas area, that card was really good for me since I fly on American a lot. So I got that card first, and then I started reading about how people were churning and opening up multiple cards. And I just thought, wow, that sounds really awesome. And I can redeem all these miles and points for free flights and free hotel stays. And so I've just been doing that, opening new cards every few months for the past 8 years.
That's awesome. And you are also a contributing writer to The Points Guy, and you've been a featured speaker at Frequent Traveler University. And in your day job, you are, remind me again,
copy editor, correct.
So you started in journalism and then moved into Points and Miles, or what was the order of that led you to become a contributing writer for one of the biggest travel hacking blogs in the world?
Yes, I started out in journalism. I went to college and majored in journalism. I wrote for some various newspapers, magazines, not about Points and Miles, just about general news stories, anything really. But so then I eventually moved into what I do now, marketing and copy editing. But I always kept kind of writing and editing on the side. And the way it came about that I became a speaker at Frequent Traveler University was that I went to a meetup. They have these annual meetups that I saw on Fly. There's a message board called Flyer Talk that talks about a lot of miles and points and travel. So they post a lot of gatherings and where people who are into miles and points can get together and meet up. And so there's an annual meetup in Ann Arbor every year, Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I went, and there I met Stefan, who organizes Frequent Traveler University, and he asked me if I was interested in speaking there. So I said, sure, even though I had never done anything like that before in my life, and I was pretty nervous. It was a good experience, and so I wound up speaking at 3 different conferences that they've had over the past few years. Then from there, I met someone who writes at The Points Guy, another blogger, and she put me in contact with The Points Guy, and from there I just was able to become a contributing writer to that website, and I've written a few articles for them. So it's just sort of unexpectedly come about, but I'm thankful, appreciative for the opportunities that I've had.
The power of networking, right? So you just started going to a meetup because you wanted to learn more about Points and Miles, and then that led to some speaking opportunities and then a writing opportunity. Is that?
Yeah, that's it. I wanted to learn more about miles and points, and I wanted to meet other people who were doing the same thing. I do have like a local group here at home in Dallas where pre-pandemic, we would get together once a month for lunch. Now we kind of get together over video, Zoom, or whatever. And so a couple of the ladies from that group actually we all went to Ann Arbor together. And so, yeah, it was just a fun thing that we did, and it turned into great opportunities for me. So.
What were the different talks that you gave, like at Frequent Traveler University? Did you talk about a particular redemption trip that you took or a particular earning strategy? Walk us through that.
I talked about solo travel. So one of the things that I do is travel alone most of the time. I like to take a lot of trips, and I'm single. I don't have, a husband or children, or my family sometimes, can come along, my siblings or cousins or friends, but, not every trip, because I'm using miles and points and they're typically paying out of pocket. So, they can't necessarily afford to always come along with me or want to or have time off work. So I just decided to go on my own. So that's one of the things I talked about at Frequent Traveler University was solo travel and kind of how to build up your confidence to not be afraid to just go out and see the world by yourself. And another topic that I've talked about is a little bit of opening up bank accounts, like checking accounts and savings accounts to get those sign up bonuses. So just beyond kind of opening up credit cards for the miles and points, there's bank account bonuses where you can get, cash in your bank account. So I've talked about sort of some strategies for doing that as well.
Super cool. So with the solo travel, are there advantages to being a solo travel hacker versus travel hacking with another person? Because you only have to cover one person's flights, which make it easier to upgrade. You don't have to try to pay for your kids' flights with points and miles. Are there other advantages that come with being a solo travel hacker?
I think you pointed out the major ones that, like, when I'm looking for redemptions and award availability, I only have to look for one seat. So, I'm trying to get a business class or a first class flight, and, I only have, like I said, I only have to find one seat. Or even if I'm flying economy, but it's like, a busy time of year, Christmas or Thanksgiving, when everybody wants to travel and there's not many seats available, I only need that one seat because it's just me traveling. So I would say that's definitely an advantage. Probably a disadvantage is that, a lot of people talk about having their player two, and they can have, somebody else, they can pool their points together, especially for hotel stays. If you have two people collecting points for that same hotel chain and they're staying 5 nights, I'm only one person collecting points and I'm still staying 5 nights. And so I, double the points essentially than somebody who's collecting as a family or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely advantages to two-player mode as well. It's always one of those grass is greener on the other sides where I can refer my husband to get referral bonuses for my credit cards, but it's so much exponentially harder to get upgraded in flight seats for two people versus one person. It's just most of the time not going to happen to get upgraded from two people from economy into business. So there's advantages to whatever walk of life anybody's walking.
Very true. Yeah, I can't really get those referral bonuses too often because I don't, have a lot of people that are to ask to sign up for cards and use my referral links. So yeah, that's a drawback.
Yeah. So as people are getting into travel hacking, do you have an example of a travel hacking mistake that you made when you were first starting out that you want to warn other people, don't make this mistake?
Well, one thing when I was first starting out was I was really hesitant about paying annual fees. I had credit cards before, but they were always free cards. I was like, what's the point of paying an annual fee for a card? But then once I started getting this travel hacking, at first I was sticking to the cards that were like, it's free for the first year. So then I would just get it for the first year, get the bonus, cancel it, not pay a fee. So I was still good. But then, I was still avoiding some of those premium cards where they charge you $500 annual fee a year, and it's not free. It's not waived at all. Like the American Express Platinum and the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Well, eventually I finally got those cards, and I was regretting the fact that I didn't get them sooner because I really enjoy the perks that they offer, especially like the lounge access. That's probably my favorite perk is even though we haven't been able to use it too much this year, but just I live where my primary airport has a Amex Centurion lounge. So, I mean, that's a great benefit for me to be able to use that. So I would just say don't be hesitant about getting some of those premium cards and looking at the benefits. And they basically sort of cover the fee. I mean, if you get enough value out of the benefits, like the airline incidental credits, Uber, Uber Eats credits, the Saks Fifth Avenue credit, all that, all those perks sort of counteract the fee, I guess, to me.
Yeah, for sure. I always need to run the math for myself to justify a $550 annual fee for my Amex Platinum. And I'm thinking, okay, well, there's $200 in airline incidental credits and then $100 from Saks and $200 from Uber Eats. And then this year they just gave us $100 of Dell credit and I get my meditation app for free from them. I have Blinkist, which is an app to read books really quickly. It's just the Cliff Notes in audio version, and that's $100 a year. So as long as you find value in the different things that they can give you, it's not too bad to justify the annual fee. But the first time anybody ever sees it,
Yeah,
I felt it too.
it is.
The heart attack of that's a $550 fee
Yeah.
for a credit card. Credit card fees are bad. But yeah, you just have to do the math on
But
it.
one little hack I will say is that I actually have the Schwab version, which with Schwab, you can cash out your membership rewards points. So basically, what I did, when you sign up for the Schwab card, they give you a 60,000 point bonus after you meet the minimum spend. Well, you can cash out some of your points. I don't remember exactly how many it took, about 50,000 or so, maybe less, maybe more, probably a little less than that. But you cash them out at 1.25% rate, I think, is what it is. And so you can actually use that to cover the fee, just whatever works for you, or you can pay the fee out of pocket, but it's an option.
Smart. Yeah. Some people, I think that's such a rare thing that people just seem to forget about the fact that you can use your credits to cover the fee if the fee is really killing you. So you mentioned you have a Centurion lounge in your home airport. For people who have not experienced the glories of the Centurion lounge, what makes it more special than just a typical airport lounge?
Well, I mean, the typical airport lounge is pretty good as well, but I feel like the Centurion has just a better food selection. At least I haven't been since they've started to reopen them now, and I haven't been back since then. But prior to that, they had a better food selection, a big buffet offering, a nice bar, nice seating area, and some of the different locations have special offerings. So, like in the Dallas airport, they have a spa area with like massage therapists. You can get like a free 15-minute massage or free plus tip or whatever massage, which was great. And I believe in San Francisco, they had like a wine tasting area or something like that, but they might have stopped doing that, I believe. So different airports have different benefits, but it's just a nice, quiet place to go before your flight, comfortable seats, and I enjoy it.
Nice. I've been to the Las Vegas one, and they actually had a soundproof children's play area, which I just thought was the most brilliant invention ever for an airport. So kids were just running around. There was maybe a ball pit, maybe a play place. I don't remember exactly what they had in there, but it was soundproof. Parents could just relax and not have to worry about their kids bothering somebody else, because if you're a parent and you have access to these lounges, but a lot of the people using them are on business calls or something like that, I know there's always a little bit of hesitation if you're bringing children, but the one in Las Vegas had a soundproof child play area, and it was brilliant.
The Dallas one might have that too. I can't remember offhand because it's been so long, but it sounds sort of familiar, like I've seen that before.
You mentioned also when in the form that you filled out that you do some manufactured spending. Can you walk people through what is manufactured spending for anybody who's not familiar with the term?
Yeah, what manufactured spending is, it's a way to kind of get spend on your credit cards, your miles and points cards to get a bonus or get miles and points, or for whatever reason you need to boost your spending, but you don't have really things that you need to buy. So you can buy gift card. Well, the way I do it is through buying gift cards, Visa gift cards, and then basically cashing those gift cards out by going and buying a money order at a grocery store or a Walmart or anywhere that accepts debit for money orders. And then you deposit those money orders and you pay back your credit cards. So I basically started doing that as a way at first to be able to meet minimum spends on credit cards, because if you're getting, 3 credit cards at one time, 3 new cards, and each one wants you to spend $3,000 in 6 months. And so that's $9,000, or sorry, they want you to spend $3,000 in 3 months. So that's $9,000 in 3 months. And I don't have a lot of expenses. I've scaled back, most of my spending. I'm pretty frugal. So I was like, how can I meet these spends and not go into debt for it or anything like that? And so that's how I kind of discovered, through reading some blogs and message boards and talking with other travel hacker people and just learning. And that's how I learned about manufactured spend. And I would say I do it on a sort of small scale, but beyond doing it for just the sign up bonuses, I do it to meet spending bonuses on a card, like with the Hilton credit card, the Hilton Surpass. If you spend $15,000, you get a weekend night, which they've recently decided you can use that night any night of the week now, which was great. So in order to be able to spend that $15,000, I just will buy some gift cards and do some manufactured spending. But you do have to be careful, because some of the credit card companies don't like that. So they frown upon that. If you do too much, they may shut you down. It sort of has its pitfalls, and I would say you have to be careful with it. But yeah, don't overextend yourself with it, really. Yeah.
Absolutely good advice. Most people, from what I've heard, when they do manufactured spending, they'll buy the Visa gift cards, as you mentioned. And then I think Walmart is the only place that still allows this, where you take your Visa gift cards and then you turn them into money orders. And then you then deposit those money orders back into your bank account to pay off your credit card bill. So you've really spent no money out of pocket, but you've gotten all of the points for buying the Visa gift cards.
Well, you spend a little bit of money because the gift cards have fees and the money orders have fees, but hopefully you've made enough in the miles and points that it's okay.
Yes, correct. Okay, so there's like $6 per Visa gift card of like $100 or $200, and then a little bit of a fee for the money orders. You're right. So all of this in itself is technically not illegal, but it's this exact same processes used by people who do money laundering. So it will trip flags if you do it wrong. So for anybody who's like, I'm going to jump straight into manufactured spend, there's a lot of different cautions that you should take before you just jump straight into this. I've seen people who are like, I turn $7,000 a day through manufactured spending. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, it is only a matter of time before something bad happens.
Definitely. So, I mean, I've seen people who do way more than I do. And yeah, the banks have shut down their credit cards. The Walmarts have, not allowed them to buy money orders anymore. And I mean, I can't say I always have great experiences buying money orders, because it is sort of suspicious if you come in frequently and you always buy the same amount, and they typically, the ones who kind of the cashiers who know what you're doing, they know you're sort of using a gift card, even though it's a debit card, and it may even have your name on it, because you can get some gift cards with your name on them. But it just, it's dicey a little bit. It can be, but worth it to me.
Yeah, it can definitely be a good way to get those bonuses if you're just thinking, I do not have $9,000 of things that I need to buy, or maybe I don't have $9,000 that I can afford to buy things that I don't need to buy. So manufacturer spending is a good way to super boost your points and miles.
Yeah, and there's other types. I would say that's just my primary way, but I mean, I've seen other travel hackers talk about doing buying groups where they buy merchandise and they send it off to a group, and then they get reimbursed. And there's reselling, which is where you just buy merchandise for yourself and then you resell it online or locally where you live. There's lots of different ways to generate spend without spending actual money or getting reimbursed for your spend, I should say. So, yeah, there's definitely other ways besides just the gift card to money order method.
That's such a good point, too. Anything where you can basically buy something for someone else and then they pay you back is technically a way to do manufactured spending, and it's not going to get you flagged by all of the banks. So if in a non-COVID world you went out to eat with 6 of your friends and then you just said, I'm going to put the bill on my credit card, everybody Venmo me your portion of the bill, then you suddenly get all of those different points, but you get paid back, and so you can pay off your credit card in time. So that's technically a way to do manufactured spending as well. That's a little bit easier for people to stomach as they're first starting out in the points and
Very
miles
true.
game.
Yes. I've done a little bit of that myself too when I can.
Yeah. Oh, whenever I go out to eat with different travel hackers, it's almost a fight for whose credit card everything will get charged on so that they can
Yeah.
get points and miles because they know everybody's just going to
Yeah,
Venmo them back.
exactly.
Okay. So what is your favorite part of travel hacking? As you've been doing this for the better part of a decade now, what part of it brings you the most joy?
The part of that brings me the most joy is why I really got into it was just to be able to travel and see the world. I mean, yeah, it's great to, collect those miles and points and see my balances grow and get those perks that I talked about, like the lounge access and first class to travel and all that's great. But, the primary reason I got into it was I had I didn't get my passport until I was almost 30. And so I feel like I had a lot of missed time to make up for not seeing the world. And so it's just been great for me to go places. And I'm trying to get to as many countries as I can. COVID has obviously put a hold on that. Hopefully, I'll be able to resume international travel soon. I'm hopeful.
Oh, we all are. We are all just waiting to get back into traveling. So, speaking of, do you have a favorite travel hacking redemption story that you've gotten to redeem before COVID hit everything?
Yes, well, my favorite redemption that I've done so far would be my trip to South Africa. I redeemed Alaska miles to fly, Alaska mileage plan miles to fly first class. I basically went the long way to Africa. I flew from like Dallas to Los Angeles and then Los Angeles to Hong Kong. And so that leg was in first class. And then from Hong Kong to Johannesburg, they only business class flight on that route. So I say only business class, but I mean, it was still really great considering how long the flight is. And so I did that. And I believe that was 70,000 Alaska miles. And that's currently still the cost of that award for a one-way flight. And then on the return, I flew business class Qatar Airways. I used American Airlines miles. So that's the thing about miles and points is you kind of have to know the alliances that they're in and how you can use one airline's miles to fly on a different airline. That's one thing I had to learn that I didn't know anything about when I first got into this hobby. So basically, to fly home from South Africa, I flew Qatar business. Unfortunately, this was 3 years ago before they had the Q suites, which everybody talks about now. I do hope to do the Q suites eventually. But still, it was a great business class experience because it was like 16 hours from Doha to Dallas direct. So super long flight. I definitely, yeah.
That's a
So I
direct
flew
flight.
Johannesburg to Doha, which was, I think, about 8 hours, and then Doha to Dallas, which was like 16 hours. So very long, a lot of flying, but worth it. And then the actual time in South Africa, it's one of my best trips I had. I used miles and points for all my hotel stays in the Cape Town area, safari in Kruger National Park, and I was able to redeem points to cover. I stayed basically right outside the park, and there were no fences between the park and the reserve where I stayed. It was like a tented camp, so the animals could kind of roam freely around the camp. It was unnerving, but like the experience of a lifetime. And the fact that I was able to use miles and points for all of that was great. I mean, most people who go on a trip like that spend 10 grand or more. I mean, especially if you're business class, you're going to spend way, that's for probably an economy trip would be 10 grand, but business class, it'd be 20 or 30 grand. So I just feel incredibly fortunate to be able to have used miles and points to have done something like that.
So when you were staying at the camp, was this using hotel points? Was this affiliated with a hotel, or was there a different route you used in order to cover the safari portion
Yes,
with
well,
points and
there's a
miles?
card. I don't believe it's still available for new applicants, but it comes back every now and then. So they might bring it back, but it's called the Barclays Arrival Plus card. And basically, I just used the sign up bonus, and they call it miles, but it's one of those cards where you pay yourself back. So you put a charge on it, and then, you can redeem your arrival miles for travel purchases. So let's say my safari was $500. I redeemed 50,000 points for that safari purchase. It's one of those type of cards where it's like you pay for something and then you redeem it and it pays you back or reimburses you.
Nice. And what kind of animals are we talking about that would walk up to the camp? Are we talking mostly zebras and giraffes or lions and hyenas? What are we talking about here?
Well, at the actual camp itself, I saw a buffalo at our watering hole one time, and I saw an elephant. An elephant actually came right outside my tent, and one of the guards had to go shoo it away. But yeah, it's the kind of place where there were like armed guards keeping watch. You couldn't leave your tent after dark. So yeah, it was sort of intense, but I did get to see what they call the big five, not necessarily at the camp, but when we went out, they took us out on game drives. And so the big five is like lions, elephants, rhinoceros, leopard, and buffalo. That's in South Africa or in an African safari. That's the big five of the animals. And I saw a lot of minor animals too, like zebras and giraffes and hyenas and wild dogs. And so it's incredible. I can't wait to do another safari sometime.
That sounds so cool. I've never done anything like that. All of my trips are much more city focused, so that's an entirely new world for anybody to try out is if they wanted to use points and miles to do something much more outdoorsy or nature focused rather than city
Yeah, I
focused.
do a
That's
lot of
so
city
cool.
focused trips too. So going on a safari was one of those bucket list things, I feel like. And so it was great. Yeah.
When you were in Cape Town, which hotels did you stay at using points and miles?
I stayed at a Radisson Blue, which sort of under the radar. I feel like not a lot of people talk about the Radisson because they just here in the United States, Radissons are sort of dumpy and they may not be very nice or in the best neighborhoods, or there just aren't that many of them. But overseas, Radissons are pretty upscale. And so I have the Radisson Rewards credit card and used points to be able to stay in Cape Town. And I had a room overlooking the ocean. I was in a neighborhood that was near the beach, I guess. Yeah. And so I had a room overlooking the Atlantic Ocean with a balcony, and they upgraded me. I feel like overseas international travel, the hotels are a little more generous about upgrading you. So they upgraded me to a nicer room. They had turn down service in the evening where they come in and they untuck your covers and they put little chocolates on your pillow and they might turn on soft music for you or something like that. I just enjoy those little luxurious type of things when a hotel does that. And so that was pretty nice. But yeah, I used Radisson points. So
That's so interesting. Every time I ask anybody what hotel points did you use, it's almost always one of what we call the big four, where it's either Marriott or Hyatt or Hilton or IHG. But that's so cool. I have not actually heard a Radisson story for points and miles before.
I have used them. They used to be really excellent. When they first came out with their credit card, they did a deal where it was like you redeem points for a hotel stay and your last night was free. So if you could manage to do like a 2 night stay, it was like a BOGO deal. But I mean, even if you did a 3 night stay, your last night would still be free. But I mean, the way to maximize it was through a 2 night stay. But unfortunately, I stopped doing that. And I feel like when they stopped doing that, people kind of stopped talking about them. But in Europe,
Mm.
especially in Europe, there's a lot of good redemptions for the Radisson Blue, which is like the upscale version of the normal Radisson. So Yeah.
Nice. So in all of your different travel hacking journeys, have you developed any viewpoints on travel hacking that you would consider unique and maybe not exactly what you find in all of the major blogs?
Well, my main viewpoint is to earn and burn. Like, I don't like to hoard my points and miles. I want to use them. I just don't want to let them accumulate and bank. And because eventually they're going to devalue. Unfortunately, the programs are constantly changing. These hotel chains and airlines, they reevaluate their programs and they decide, up, we're not charging enough points for that. We're going to raise the cost. So it's best to get in, while you can, while it's at a lower cost. And if you're just sitting on your points, you're not doing that. And eventually it's going to cost you more points for the same thing. So I'd rather just use them as often as I can and not hold on to them and build up. Even though, I do have a lot of points and a lot of programs, and altogether it kind of adds up to a lot. But in a single program, I don't necessarily have like a million points. I don't have a million Hilton points, which some people might be surprised to hear that, but I'm constantly using them. So I'm constantly earning them and burning them. So that's my advice.
That's really good advice because I feel like a lot of people who are drawn to travel hacking are people who are very meticulous with their personal finance, and their entire lives the philosophy has been be frugal, save, invest, don't have a cycle of money in, money out. But with points that are not like money, you can't get compound interest on your points for being frugal with them. So I completely agree that as soon as you get points, figure out how you want to use them, because especially if points were to ever expire on you due to inactivity, that is a sad
Yeah,
day.
I haven't had any points expire, but yeah, I have had it where I've been like eyeing a hotel, let's say with the Hyatt where it was in a category 4, it's 15,000 points, and then they decide to raise it to 20 or 25,000. I'm like, oh man, that same hotel that I could have stayed at a year ago is now 10,000 more points. That's always upsetting.
Yeah. So your one-line best piece of travel hacking advice for any listeners out there, if we were to just sum it up in 3 words.
It's earn and burn.
Earn and burn.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. We're coming up on our last couple of questions. Can you nominate at least one travel hacker who you think you want to give a shout out to that has really great travel hacking advice on their platform that could add a lot of value to anybody listening to this show?
Yeah, well, somebody I've recently sort of started following on Instagram is called the Points Engineer, and I feel like he's got a lot of good content on his Instagram stories and his posts, and I've learned some things. So yeah, I would nominate him.
Cool. All right. And last question, where can we find you on Instagram or elsewhere on the internet?
Well, I mainly just use my Instagram account. I'm not the greatest at promoting myself, so I kind of have a small following, but it's called Points Travel Her. So PINTSTRAVELHER. And so I document some of my trips and I post stories when I'm on the go, and hopefully people find what I'm doing interesting. I'd say that's the best way to follow what I'm doing or get in touch with me.
Sounds good. And I'll put your handle in the show notes as well. And of course, if anybody Googles you, we might come across your articles for the Points Guy as well for different points and miles strategies there.
That too.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great having you today. This was such a good conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad that you're doing this podcast and I was able to talk to you.
Of course. All right.
Okay,
take care. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Geobreeze Travel Podcast. If you want in on the mission of spreading the joys of the travel hacking lifestyle, it would mean the world to me if you could subscribe to this podcast, leave a 5-star review, and share it with a friend. Additionally, if any of the cards mentioned on today's call piqued your interest, please use the links in the show notes to apply or learn more about any of the cards. And if you would like some personalized help with your travel hacking strategy, I do offer coaching services at a very affordable rate, starting with a free 30-minute call. Just pick a time that works for you at calendly.com/geobreeze, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care and happy travels.